get you the headlines. At least 13 people have died in Spain after a fire engulfed a nightclub in the southeastern city of Murcia. A special report from the French-Italian border as Italy's Prime Minister warns Europe will be overwhelmed by migration unless the European Union acts. The UK Prime Minister refuses to commit to cutting taxes before the next general election despite pressure from his own MPs. In the US, the Speaker of the House says he will not go as hardline Republicans try to oust him for backing the last-minute deal, avoiding a government shutdown. Meanwhile, President Biden has this message for Congress over funding on Ukraine.
Stop playing games. Get this done.
And Indonesia prepares to launch the first high-speed railway in Southeast Asia after years of delay. At least 10 migrants have died and 25 were injured when a cargo truck secretly carrying them overturned on a highway in the southern Mexican state of Chiapas. The accident took place near the border with Guatemala, a stretch of highway along the Pacific coast where migrants often travel as they attempt to reach the United States. Now, an Iraqi government investigation into a fire that killed more than 100 people at a wedding last week has blamed gross negligence and a lack of safety measures. Iraq's Interior Minister Abdul Amir al-Shammari told a news conference that 900 people had been allowed into the venue when it was only designed for less than half that number. He also confirmed that the disaster was accidental. The Afghan embassy in New Delhi has ceased its operations with effect from Sunday due to an alleged lack of support from the Indian government and a reduction in its personnel and resources. In a statement released on social media platform X, formerly Twitter, the embassy further said its failure to meet the expectations in serving Afghanistan's interests was another reason to stop the operations. In Australia, Sydney, temperature records are smashed for the starting of October. The temperature peaked at 35.6 degrees Celsius on Sunday, beating the previous record by more than 2 degrees and soaring 14 degrees above the average. Fire danger warnings were issued across New South Wales.
Turkey blames Kurdish rebels for a suicide bombing near Parliament in Ankara. Turkey says it's conducted a wave of airstrikes on bases of the banned Kurdish rebel group, the PKK, in northern Iraq. It comes after 2 policemen were injured by a bomb attack in Turkey's capital, Ankara. 2 attackers died in those blasts. A PKK affiliate claimed responsibility for the explosion, which took place outside the headquarters of Turkey's National Police Force. Now, in response, Turkey launched airstrikes against the PKK, which operates across the Kurdish-populated regions of Turkey, Iran, and Iraq. Kurdish media says the strikes were targeted against the PKK's stronghold in the Kandil Mountains, which straddled the Iran-Iraq border. Local officials in Iraq confirmed the attacks, claiming 20 targets were destroyed and many militants neutralized. In a speech to parliament hours after the attack, Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan struck a defiant note. The union representing thousands of striking actors will resume talks with major Hollywood studios on Monday. The announcement by SAG-AFTRA comes as writers ended their 148-day strike after reaching a tentative agreement on a new contract. The actors' union is asking for a pay increase, higher residuals for shows on streaming platforms, and greater protections from the use of AI. In men's golf, Europe has retained the Ryder Cup from the United States in a dramatic last day of singles in Rome. The tournament, played every 2 years, generates some big passions on both sides of the Atlantic. Senegal's Navy says it's intercepted 4 boats over 3 days with more than 600 people on board who were attempting the treacherous crossing to Spain's Canary Islands. The rescues come amid a busy summer season where thousands of migrants make the dangerous journey each year in search of a better life. Well, meanwhile, Italy's prime minister has warned that Europe will be overwhelmed by migration unless the European Union finds solutions. Italy currently receives the highest number of people smugglers' boats carrying asylum seekers and other migrants in Europe. The number of arrivals is already almost double that of last year, but many of the migrants then aim to travel north to wealthier countries like Germany, France, or the UK. Well, the U.S. State Department says it's gravely concerned that Guatemala's public ministry is trying to undermine the transfer of power following this year's presidential election. Scuffles broke out at Guatemala's Supreme Electoral Tribunal as police seized boxes containing vote tally sheets. President-elect Bernardo Arévalo won the election in a landslide back in August. He's been subject to a campaign seeking to prevent him from taking office.